I didn't fall out of love, she said, folding her sweater into a box. He stood in the doorway of their bedroom, still decorated with the things they'd chosen together 5 years ago, and watched her pack. Then what is this? His voice was controlled, the same tone he used in boardrooms. If you still love me, why are you leaving? Because love isn't enough. She didn't look at him, just kept folding, methodical, careful, like she'd been planning this. You stopped choosing me, Marcus. That's not true. When's my birthday? The question stopped him cold. What? My birthday. She finally looked at him, and the exhaustion in her eyes was worse than anger would have been. What day is it? April, he trailed off, uncertainty creeping in. April 14th. 17th, she turned back to the box. It was last week. You were in Singapore. I sent flowers. You had your assistant send flowers, she corrected quietly. Expensive ones. From that boutique florist you've never actually been to. With a card that said, "Happy birthday, love Marcus," in handwriting that isn't yours. He felt something twist in his chest. I was closing the Zhang deal. You know how important. Everything's important, Marcus. She moved to her closet, pulled out more clothes. Every deal, every meeting, every call. Everything except sitting across from me at dinner. Everything except asking about my day. Everything except being here when you're here. That's not fair. I built this life for us. You built this life around us, she interrupted, and her voice finally cracked. This house, this wealth, this empire. You built it all around where we should be, but you're never actually in it with me. Marcus Cross didn't do failure. At 38, he'd built Cross International from a small investment firm into a multi-billion-dollar empire. He'd made his first million by 25, his first 100 million by 30. Forbes had called him the shark with a conscience, ruthless in business, generous in philanthropy. He'd given his wife everything, everything money could buy. The penthouse overlooking Central Park, the house in the Hamptons, the villa in Tuscany, credit cards with no limits, access to his entire fortune. And she was leaving him. Tell me what you want, he said, trying to regain control of a situation that felt like sand slipping through his fingers. Whatever it is, I'll make it happen. I want you to stop thinking everything's a transaction. Lena closed her suitcase with careful precision. I don't want your money, Marcus. I never did. Then what do you want? I wanted you. She sat on the edge of their bed, the bed where they'd made love, made promises, made a life together. I wanted the man who used to bring me coffee in bed and ask about the book I was reading, the man who'd cancel meetings to watch thunderstorms with me, the man who knew thunderstorms were my favorite thing. I still know that. Do you? She met his eyes. When's the last time you watched one with me? When's the last time we had coffee in bed? When's the last time you asked about anything in my life that wasn't logistics? The questions landed like accusations because they were. Marcus tried to remember, tried to pinpoint the last time he'd done any of those things. Came up empty. I've been building something, he said, defensive, creating security for our future, for the children we haven't had, because you're never home long enough to have that conversation. Her voice was soft, devastatingly gentle. For the future where we're supposed to travel together but you can't leave your phone for 3 hours. For the life we keep saying we'll start living someday. That's not. When was the last time we had sex, Marcus? The question hung in the air. It hasn't been that long. 4 months. She stood, picked up her suitcase. 4 months since you touched me like you wanted me instead of like you were checking an item off a list. And even then, you took a call during. Shame flooded through him. Lena. I'm not angry, she said, and that was somehow worse. I'm just tired. Tired of sleeping next to someone who's already mentally in tomorrow's meeting. Tired of eating dinner alone in a house full of things. Tired of being married to someone who treats our relationship like another portfolio to manage. Where are you going? Maya's her sister safe expected, for now. For now, hope flickered, so this is permanent. Before we continue, can I ask you a question? Where in the world are you watching from? Comment below because we'd love to know how far these stories travel, and hit that subscribe button. I don't know. She moved toward the door, paused. I just know I can't keep living like this, like I'm part of your inventory, like loving you is something I do alone. You're not alone. Yes, Marcus. She turned back and tears finally spilled over. I am. I've been alone in this marriage for 2 years, maybe longer. I just finally admitted it to myself. She walked out. He heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the front door open and close, heard the engine of her car, the Mercedes he'd bought her for their anniversary last year after missing the dinner they'd planned. And then silence. Marcus Cross, master of the universe, stood in his empty bedroom and didn't know what to do. The next morning, Marcus did what he always did when faced with a problem. He tried to solve it. He called his assistant, Jennifer. Clear my afternoon, I need to go shopping. Shopping, sir? For my wife, we're going through something, I need to fix it. Jennifer, who'd worked for him for 8 years and knew both him and Lena well, hesitated. Mr. Cross, if I may. What? Maybe this isn't a problem shopping can solve. He ignored her, went to Cartier, bought a bracelet that cost more than most people's cars, had it engraved, forever choosing you asterisk. Drove to Maya's apartment in Brooklyn, a modest 2-bedroom that his money could have upgraded, though Lena's sister had refused every offer. Maya answered the door, blocking the entrance. She doesn't want to see you. I'm her husband. Then act like it. Maya's expression was ice. You don't get to throw jewelry at her and expect forgiveness. How did you? She's my sister, I know her, and I know you. Maya crossed her arms. You're going to try to buy your way out of this. Prove you're committed with expensive gestures. Make grand promises about changing. That's not. Marcus, I've watched you two for 5 years. I watched her fall in love with the ambitious guy who had nothing but dreams. And I've watched her die slowly as that guy became the billionaire who has everything except time for his wife. The words hit like physical blows. She told you to say this. She doesn't know I'm saying any of this, Maya said. Lena's too kind to tell you the full truth. She still protects your feelings even when you've stopped protecting hers. I love my wife. Then prove it. Maya started to close the door. But not with jewelry, Marcus, with presence, with attention, with the 1,000 small choices that actually build a marriage. The door shut. Marcus stood in the hallway holding a Cartier box and realized he had no idea how to do what Maya was asking. He threw himself into work instead. Buried himself in meetings, calls, deals. The Zheng acquisition finalized. The Tokyo expansion launched. The quarterly reports exceeded projections. But 3 days later, Jennifer knocked on his office door with an expression he'd never seen before. What? Your wife is here. Hope surged. Send her in. She's not here to see you. Jennifer's tone was careful. She's cleaning out her office. Marcus had forgotten. Lena had worked at Cross International when they met. Junior analyst, brilliant mind, the first person who challenged his strategies in ways that made him better. He'd promoted her twice before they started dating. After they married, she'd stayed on for a year, then quietly resigned. Said she wanted to pursue other interests. He'd been relieved. No more conflicts of interest, no more questions about nepotism. He never asked what those other interests were. Now she was in the small office she'd kept on the 20th floor, technically still hers, though she hadn't used it in 3 years, packing her things. Marcus found her surrounded by boxes, photos from their early days scattered on the desk. You don't have to do this, he said. She didn't startle, had probably heard him coming. Actually, I do. I should have done it years ago. Should have admitted I wasn't just taking a break, I was disappearing. Lena, did you know I've been taking classes? She held up a photograph, them at a company party, both younger, both laughing at something neither could probably remember. At NYU, art history, for the past 18 months. He hadn't known. I'm thinking about getting my master's, maybe teaching. She set down the photo. I've been building toward this decision for a while, Marcus. Planning a life that doesn't revolve around waiting for you to notice me. That's not fair, isn't it? She turned to face him fully. When's the last time you asked what I did all day? Not did you have a good day, actually asked what I did, who I saw, what I'm thinking about. He couldn't answer. Last Tuesday I spent 6 hours at the Met, she continued. There's a Vermeer exhibition I've been dying to see. I texted you about it, sent you pictures. You replied nice 3 hours later. I was in meetings. You're always in meetings. Her voice remained level, which somehow made it worse. And I'm not saying that to be cruel. I understand your work is important, but Marcus, I'm important too, or I should be. You are. Then show me. The words came out raw. Don't tell me I'm important while treating me like background noise. Don't say you love me and then forget my birthday. Don't promise to be home for dinner and cancel without even a personal phone call. Guilt twisted deeper. That was one time. 7 times in the last 3 months, she corrected. I've been keeping track. Not because I wanted to build a case, but because I kept thinking I was wrong. That I was overreacting. That I should be grateful for everything you provide. You should, he stopped at her expression. Should be grateful, she laughed without humor. There it is, the real issue. You think providing financially means you've fulfilled your obligation, that the money and the houses and the gifts equal love. That's not what I meant. But it's what you believe. She turned back to her packing. And that's why this won't work, because I don't need you to provide for me, Marcus. I need you to be with me. And you don't know how to do that anymore. Maybe you never did. The accusation landed like a knife. That's not true. When we first met. When we first met, you had nothing to hide behind. She taped up a box. No empire demanding your attention, no excuse for absence. You were present because you had no choice. But the second you had the option to choose work over me, you did, every single time. Because I'm building something. You've already built it, her composure finally cracked. Cross International is worth billions. You have more money than we could spend in 10 lifetimes. You've achieved everything you set out to achieve. So what are you still running from? The question echoed in the quiet office. I'm not running. Then what do you call this? She gestured at the space between them. Working 80-hour weeks when you have people you trust to delegate to. Flying across the world for meetings you could video conference. Checking your phone at 2 a.m. when you're supposedly sleeping beside me. I'm ensuring our future. We don't have a future if you're not present for the present, her voice rose. I don't want your money, Marcus. I don't want grand gestures or expensive gifts or promises about someday. I want you, the actual you, here, now, choosing me over the next deal. I do choose you. When? The question was a challenge. Name one time in the last 6 months when you chose me over work, one meeting you canceled to stay home, one trip you skipped to be present, one moment when I came first. Silence. He couldn't think of one. That's what I thought. She picked up the box she'd been packing. I'm not leaving because I stopped loving you. I'm leaving because you stopped choosing me, and I finally chose myself instead. She walked past him, carrying her box, leaving him standing in an office that suddenly felt as empty as their marriage. Marcus did exactly what Maya predicted. He sent flowers, daily, different arrangements, each more extravagant than the last. He made reservations at the restaurant where they'd had their first date, sent the details to Lena. She didn't respond. He bought tickets to Paris, First class, five-star hotel, the trip they'd talked about taking for their anniversary 3 years running. Maya texted him, "Stop." He called Lena's phone. It went to voicemail. He left messages that started confident and ended desperate. "I know I've been absent, I'm fixing it. I've cleared my schedule for next month, we can go anywhere you want. Do anything, just tell me what you need." She never called back. 2 weeks into the separation, Marcus sat in his therapist's office for the first time in his life. Dr. Sarah Chen, recommended by Jennifer, who'd been gently suggesting therapy for years, listened to his situation with infuriating calm. "So you've sent gifts, made grand plans, cleared your schedule," she summarized. "How has your wife responded?" "She hasn't." "And why do you think that is?" "Because she's being stubborn." He stopped at Dr. Chen's expression. "Because the gestures aren't what she wants." "What does she want?" "She said she wants me present, whatever that means." "You don't know what presence means." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "I'm providing for her. Isn't that presence? Being there financially, making sure she's secure." "Is that what your wife values most? Financial security?" He thought about Lena, about the woman who'd turned down his offers to buy her designer clothes, who preferred quiet nights reading to fancy galas, who'd resigned from a lucrative position without seeming to care about the lost income. "No," he admitted quietly. "So when she asks for presents, what do you think she means?" "Being there physically." "Partly," Dr. Chen leaned forward. "But presence isn't just physical proximity. It's emotional availability, mental engagement, the choice to prioritize someone in the moment, not just in theory." "I do prioritize her." "Tell me about last Tuesday." "What about it?" "What did your wife do last Tuesday?" Marcus drew a blank. I don't know." "Where were you?" "In the office. We had the Tokyo team on video conference, then the acquisition lawyers needed." He stopped. "That's the problem, isn't it?" "What do you think?" "I can tell you every detail of my business week, every meeting, every deal point, every decision. But I don't know what my wife did on Tuesday." "And when you were together, before the separation, were you present with her? Or were you physically there but mentally elsewhere?" He thought about dinners where he'd checked his phone, conversations where he'd half-listened while thinking about work, nights in bed where he'd been reviewing contracts on his laptop while she read beside him. "I thought I was being efficient," he said, "maximizing time. I was there just multitasking." "Marcus, can I ask you something?" Dr. Chen's voice was gentle. "When you're in an important business meeting, do you multitask?" "Of course not. That would be disrespectful." The realization hit him like a truck. "I've been disrespecting my wife," he said slowly. "Every time I half-listened, every time I was physically present but mentally absent, I was telling her she wasn't worth my full attention." "And how do you think that made her feel?" "Invisible." His throat tightened, "like she didn't matter." "Does she matter?" "She's everything." The words came out rough. "She's the only thing that actually matters, and I've been treating her like an afterthought." That night, Marcus showed up at Maya's apartment again. Maya answered, saw his face, and her expression softened slightly. "She's not here." "Where is she?" "Her Thursday evening class. NYU Art History lecture." Maya paused. "She mentioned it to you 3 weeks ago, asked if you'd come with her sometime." He had no memory of the conversation, which meant he'd been on his phone or thinking about work or somehow physically present but completely absent. "When does she get back?" "Around 9. Maya studied him. "You look like hell." "I feel like hell." He ran his hand through his hair. "I don't know how to fix this, Maya. I don't know how to be what she needs." "Start by actually showing up," Maya said. "Not with gifts or grand plans, just show up, be present. Listen when she talks. Remember what she tells you, choose her." "I don't know how to do that and run my company." Then maybe you need to decide which one you want more. The ultimatum hung in the air. I want my wife. Then prove it. Maya started to close the door, then paused. She has a piano recital next Friday, 7 p.m. NYU Steinhardt Building. She's been practicing for months. Piano recital, she doesn't play. She does now, started lessons 2 years ago, practices every afternoon while you're at the office. Maya's look was pointed. If you actually listened when she talked, you'd know that. The door closed. Marcus stood in the hallway, understanding crystallizing with painful clarity. He'd been living with a stranger, a woman he claimed to love but didn't actually know anymore. Because knowing someone required presence, attention, the choice to prioritize them over everything else. And he'd been choosing everything else for years. Friday arrived. Marcus had spent the week restructuring his life, delegating more to his executive team, blocking off evenings as unavailable, actually reading Lena's texts instead of skimming them. He'd learned she was taking 4 classes at NYU, that she volunteered at a literacy program Tuesday mornings, that she'd been planning to apply for a master's program in the fall. He'd learned all of this from her social media and conversations with Maya, not from his wife directly, because she still wasn't speaking to him. The piano recital was his chance to prove something had changed. He cleared his entire day, sent flowers to the venue, not for Lena, but for the program director, with a note thanking them for supporting adult learners. Arranged for a private table at her favorite restaurant afterward, a small Italian place in Greenwich Village she'd been talking about for months. He arrived at the venue at 6:30, half an hour early. And then his phone rang. The Tokyo deal, the acquisition he'd spent 6 months negotiating, was falling apart. The Tanaka family was backing out, spooked by something in the due diligence. "Handle it," Marcus told his VP of acquisitions. "I've tried, sir. They'll only speak to you. They're calling it a matter of respect." Marcus looked at the concert hall doors, at his watch, 6:45 p.m. "Tell them I'll call Monday. They're threatening to go with the competing bid. If we don't resolve this tonight, we lose the deal. $200 million, 6 months of work, a strategic acquisition that would expand cross-international into the Asian market. Versus his wife's piano recital. "What time can you get them on the phone?" he heard himself ask. "They're standing by now, but sir, this could take hours." "Just let me think." Marcus stood in the lobby, phone in one hand, recital program in the other. The program listed Lena as performing Chopin's Nocturne Op. 9, number 2 her performance slot, 7:15 p.m. He could take the call in his car, handle it quickly, be back before she performed. Except he knew it wouldn't be quick. International negotiations never were. But this was $200 million, strategic expansion, his responsibility to his shareholders, his employees, everyone who depended on cross-international. Against one piano recital. Except it wasn't about the recital, was it? It was about showing Lena that she came first, that he chose her. The thought was clear, obvious, simple. And yet his hand was already moving, already dialing into the conference line. "Mr. Tanaka, Marcus Cross, I understand we have concerns to address." At 7:15 p.m., Lena walked onto the stage in a simple blue dress Marcus had never seen. Her eyes scanned the audience, hopeful, then dimming as they passed over the empty seat Maya had saved for him. She sat at the piano, adjusted the bench, placed her hands on the keys, and played Chopin like she'd been born to it, every note precise and feeling, the kind of performance that came from months of practice and dedication. The audience applauded when she finished. She stood, bowed, her smile not quite reaching her eyes as she looked once more at the empty seat. Marcus arrived at 7:47 p.m., the Tokyo deal salvaged but not yet finalized, to find the recital in its final moments. He slipped into the back, caught Maya's eye. Her expression told him everything. He'd failed. Again, in the most spectacular, unforgivable way. After the recital, he waited outside the building. Lena emerged with her classmates, laughing at something, animated in a way he rarely saw at home. She stopped when she saw him. "You missed it," she said quietly. "I know, the Tokyo deal." "There's always a deal, Marcus." She wasn't angry, that was worse. She was resigned. "There's always something more important." "That's not true. I told you about this recital 3 weeks ago, reminded you twice, texted you this morning. Maya confirmed you were coming." Her voice was steady, but tears gathered in her eyes. "I gave you every opportunity to remember to prioritize this one thing, and you still chose work." "I was trying to get back in time." "You should have been here from the beginning." The first real anger broke through. "You should have been in your seat when I walked out on that stage. You should have seen me play the piece I've been practicing for 4 months. You should have been present for the one thing I explicitly asked you not to miss." "I'm sorry." "I don't want your apology." She stepped back as he tried to reach for her. "I want a divorce." The word landed like a bomb. "Lena, please." "I've already contacted a lawyer. You'll receive the papers next week." Her voice wavered but held. "I wanted to believe you could change. That's why I invited you tonight. One last chance to show me you were serious about choosing differently." "I am serious." "No, Marcus. You're serious about wanting to change, but you're not actually willing to do the work. And I'm done waiting for you to figure out what everyone else already knows. Love isn't what you say, it's what you do. It's the 1,000 small choices you make every single day." "Give me another chance." "I've given you 3 years of chances." She turned away. "Every missed dinner, every forgotten birthday, every time I went to bed alone in our house full of expensive things and empty rooms, those were all chances. Tonight was the last one." She walked away. And this time Marcus didn't follow. Because he finally understood. Following her now, making more promises, trying to convince her with words, that was just more of the same. If he wanted to prove anything, he had to actually change. Not promise to change, actually do it. Without an audience, without her watching, without any guarantee she'd ever come back. Marcus started with his calendar. Canceled standing meetings. Delegated his schedule to his executive team with clear authority to make decisions without him. Set hard stops at 6 p.m., no exceptions. His board was concerned. His investors questioned his commitment. "I'm fully committed," he told them at the quarterly meeting. "I'm just also committed to having a life outside this building. If Cross International can't function without me working 18-hour days, then I've failed as a leader anyway." He hired 2 additional VPs, empowered his executive team to act independently, started actually using the talented people he'd surrounded himself with instead of trying to control everything personally. And with the time he'd created, he started showing up. Not for Lena, she'd made it clear she didn't want to see him. But for himself, to learn how to be present, to figure out who he was outside of work. He went to the Met, spent 3 hours walking through galleries, actually looking at art instead of just passing through on the way to donor events. Started to understand what Lena saw in it, the way a painting could capture a moment, a feeling, something beyond words or numbers. He took a cooking class, realized he'd never actually cooked a meal in their state-of-the-art kitchen, burned his first 3 attempts at pasta before finally getting it right. He started reading again. Fiction, not business books. Sat in coffee shops without his laptop, just a novel and terrible coffee, watching the world move around him. He went to therapy every week. Dug into why he'd equated his worth with productivity, why being still felt like failure, why he'd used work to avoid intimacy. Dr. Chen was relentless. "You've been running your entire adult life. What are you running from?" Failure. What kind of failure? All of it. The admission was painful. My father was an alcoholic. We had nothing. I watched my mother work 3 jobs and still couldn't pay the bills. I swore I'd never be like him, never be unable to provide. So you've been proving you're not your father by becoming the opposite extreme. Yes. And in the process, you've abandoned your wife emotionally the way your father abandoned your family physically. The parallel was devastating and obvious. I don't know how to stop, Marcus admitted. Work is where I'm competent, where I succeed. With Lena, I don't know how to be good at just being. Being isn't about being good at it, Dr. Chen said gently. It's about showing up, imperfectly, consistently, without needing to achieve or produce or prove anything. So he practiced showing up. Started small. Went to Maya's neighborhood, sat in the coffee shop across from her building just in case Lena needed anything. Didn't announce his presence. Didn't make grand gestures. Just was there. The first week, Maya noticed him through the window, came out. What are you doing? Being nearby. In case she needs something. She has a phone. I know he didn't move, but words are easy, presence is harder. Maya studied him for a long moment. She volunteers at the Literacy Center Tuesday mornings. PS 142 in Brooklyn. They could use funding. I'll write a check. No, Maya's tone was firm. They need tutors, not money. Show up, read with kids, be useful. So he did. Every Tuesday morning, Marcus Cross, Billionaire CEO, sat in an elementary school classroom helping third graders sound out words. It was humbling, difficult, completely outside his expertise. He loved it. The kids didn't care about his net worth or his business acumen. They just wanted someone patient and present, someone who showed up. Like Lena had wanted. 3 weeks in, he was helping a boy named Travis with a particularly difficult passage when he looked up and saw her. Lena stood in the doorway watching him, her expression unreadable. Their eyes met. He didn't get up, didn't abandon Travis mid-sentence to chase after her, just held her gaze for a moment, then returned his attention to the child who needed him right now. When he looked up again, she was gone. But the next Tuesday, she was back, working with her own group of students across the room. They didn't speak, didn't acknowledge each other beyond a brief nod. But they were in the same room, choosing the same thing, present for the same purpose. It was a start. 6 weeks after the piano recital, Lena's lawyer sent the divorce papers. Marcus signed them without argument, sent them back with a note. I'm not fighting this because you deserve to choose what you want, but I want you to know I'm choosing differently now. Not to win you back, I understand that ship may have sailed, but because you were right, I stopped choosing you, and in the process I stopped choosing myself too. I'm learning to be present, to value moments over deals, to measure my life by relationships instead of revenue. It's harder than closing billion-dollar deals, and more important, thank you for loving me enough to leave. It was the wake-up call I needed, even if I was too blind to see it at the time. Whatever you decide about us, I'm grateful for the years we had, for the man you helped me become, for the lesson I'm still learning, that love is a choice you make every single day. I'm choosing you every day, whether you're there to see it or not. He didn't expect a response. Didn't get one. But 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning at the Literacy Center, Lena sat down next to him at lunch. Didn't say anything, just sat. They ate in silence. When she finished, she stood to leave, paused. Same time next week. It wasn't reconciliation, wasn't even really conversation. But it was acknowledgement, permission, a door left slightly open. I'll be here, he said. She nodded, left. Marcus sat in the elementary school cafeteria, surrounded by the chaos of children and teachers, and felt something shift in his chest. Hope, Not the desperate, grasping hope of someone trying to fix a problem, but the quiet, steady hope of someone who'd finally learned patience. The divorce papers never got filed. Not because they reconciled dramatically, not because Marcus made some grand gesture that won her back, but because over the next 3 months he kept showing up. To the literacy center every Tuesday. To her NYU lectures, sitting in the back just listening. To the small Italian restaurant she loved, where he'd eat alone at the bar, learning the menu, talking to the owner, becoming part of the fabric of her world without demanding to be the center of it. He sent her articles he thought she'd find interesting, not expensive gifts, just thoughtful gestures that said, "I'm paying attention, I see you, I remember what matters to you." He didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't pressure her to come home. He just chose her, every day, in small, consistent ways. And slowly, painfully, carefully, slowly, she started choosing him back. It started with coffee. She asked if he wanted to grab a cup after tutoring. They talked about the kids, the program, everything except their marriage. Then dinner, the Italian place. She didn't ask him to join her, but when he was there again, as had become his habit, she invited him to her table. Then a walk through Central Park. Then a movie. Then finally, 6 months after she'd left, a conversation about what came next. They were sitting on a bench in Riverside Park, watching the sunset over the Hudson, when she finally said it. "I've been staying at Maya's for half a year. I know. The penthouse must feel empty." "It is." He didn't look at her. "But I needed it to be, needed to understand what I'd lost." "And what did you lose?" "Everything that mattered." He finally met her eyes. "You, us, the possibility of building something real instead of just accumulating things." She was quiet for a long moment. "I'm not sure I can come back to that life. The penthouse, the wealth, the schedule full of obligations." "I'm not asking you to." He took her hand carefully like she might break. "I sold the penthouse." "You what?" "Bought a brownstone in Brooklyn, near Maya, near your school, with a real kitchen, not just one for show." He smiled. "I've been practicing. I'm not good yet, but I can make pasta without burning it." "Marcus." "I've restructured the company, promoted 3 people to handle day-to-day operations. I'm still CEO, but I work 40 hours a week, not 80. I have mornings free to read, evenings free to actually live." He squeezed her hand gently. "I'm building a different life, with or without you. But God, Lena, I hope it's with you." Tears streamed down her face. "How do I know this isn't temporary, that you won't slide back into old patterns?" "You don't," he admitted. "I can't promise I'll never mess up. Can't promise I won't have days where I backslide, but I can promise I'm choosing differently now, every single day, whether it's easy or hard, whether you're watching or not." "Show me the brownstone." It wasn't yes, but it wasn't no. He stood, offered his hand. "It's a 10-minute walk." The brownstone was beautiful, not ostentatious, just warm. Real furniture instead of designer pieces, books on shelves, a kitchen that looked used, art on the walls, pieces from local artists, not famous names, chosen because they were beautiful, not because they were investments. "There's a room on the 3rd floor," Marcus said as they toured. "Perfect light. I thought if you wanted, it could be your studio, for painting or whatever else." "I don't paint." "Not yet," he smiled. "But you might want to someday, and if you do, the space is there." She walked through the house slowly, touching things, seeing herself in the choices he'd made. "The bedroom," she said finally, "is there just one?" "No," he led her upstairs. "The master suite, and a guest room. I didn't assume, I didn't want you to feel pressured. If you come back, we move at whatever pace you need." She stood in the doorway of the master bedroom. King bed, simple and elegant, windows overlooking a small garden, a reading nook with a chair positioned to catch morning light. "When did you buy this?" 3 months ago. "Why didn't you tell me?" Because I wasn't doing it for you to see, he said quietly. I was doing it because I needed to build a life worth living, whether or not you were in it. She turned to face him, and something in her expression had softened. Not forgiven, not yet, but open. I need time. I have time. I need to finish my degree, apply to graduate programs, figure out who I am separate from being your wife. I know. And I need to know that if I come back, it's to a partnership, not to being an accessory in your life. It will be, he stepped closer. I swear to you, Lena, you come first. Not my work, not my ambition, not my need to prove anything. You. She searched his face for a long moment. One dinner a week, here, you cook. I can do that. And therapy together. Already scheduled. And if you miss something important, if you choose work over us even once, then you walk away and I don't get another chance, he finished. I know. She nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. I'll stay tonight in the guest room and we'll see. It wasn't the ending he'd hoped for. No passionate reunion, no declaration that all was forgiven. But it was real, honest, the beginning of something built on actual foundation instead of just intensity and promises. That night they made dinner together, pasta which Marcus only slightly burned. They ate in the kitchen, talking about small things, her classes, his restructuring of the company, a book they'd both read. And when she went to the guest room, she paused at the door. Marcus. Yeah. Thank you for showing up, for not giving up, but also for not pressuring me, for just being here. Every day, he said, I'm choosing you every day. She smiled, small, tentative, but real. I know. Love didn't come back loudly. It came back in Tuesday mornings at the literacy center, in weekly dinners where they relearned each other, in therapy sessions where they excavated the debris of their marriage and decided what to keep, what to discard. It came back in small moments, Marcus remembering to ask about her classes, Lena noticing when he was stressed and suggesting a walk, both of them choosing to be present even when it was hard. 3 months later, Lena's things started migrating from the guest room to the master suite. 6 months later, the divorce papers were officially withdrawn. A year later, they renewed their vows in a quiet ceremony, just them, Maya, and a justice of the peace. No grand production, just two people choosing each other, again, daily. Because that was the secret Marcus finally learned. Love wasn't a destination you reached. It was a choice you made. Every single morning, every difficult conversation, every moment when work called and you chose your person instead. He'd spent years thinking love was about providing, protecting, building empires. But Lena had taught him the truth. Love was about presence, about showing up, about the 1,000 small choices that said, louder than any words, "You matter, you're seen, I choose you." Every single day. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I truly appreciate you for spending your time here. It means a lot more than you know. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I really want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment. Your support helps the channel grow and brings more stories like this your way. Thank you for being here. More amazing stories are coming, don't miss them.